Hey everybody, welcome back to another show. Fistful of collars here from the FloGrappling studios, myself, Howell and Ryan, and today we're very proud, very fortunate to have back in the studio, making your return appearance, none other than, if you didn't guess, Bellator MMA World Middleweight Champion, Rafael Lovato Jr. Rafael, thank you so much for coming in today.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be back.
It is great to be back, and you're back here in Austin. You're hanging out for a couple of days. We were in the gym with you a few days ago there. Mm-hmm. What's up? Why are you back? Because last time you were here, a couple months ago, or earlier this year, you were training for the MMA fight that won you this belt. So what's up?
Well, you know, Austin is a place where I have like multiple reasons to come visit. You know, first there's the connection with Onnit. You know, Onnit is a great partner of mine, and they are so supportive. Shout out to Andrew Craig from Onnit, my good friend and training partner. You know, I'm basically in a pre-camp phase right now, starting to turn things up. And so I wanted to come down, get some training in, and of course do some things with Onnit. We did, some filming, photo shoots and whatnot. And they just had this incredible facility and resources there of trainers, people to learn from, from strength and conditioning to yoga, mobility.
Yeah, that place looks like Disneyland for a grappler, right? Or any athlete, to be honest.
Yeah, 100%. So just getting the body ready, come down, train there, and I have several friends here. So a couple schools that I visited for seminars. My friend Robbie Rabati, and also one of my affiliate schools, Austin Submission Fighting, ran by Brian Evans. So did a couple seminars, and just basically hanging out. Got to stop by my good friend Paulo Brandel, his academy, Gracie Umaita Austin. Trained there, training at the 10th Planet, doing the Muay Thai at Onnit Muay Thai.
That sounds like a busy week.
It is, but it's so much fun though. At the same time, very productive. Just from business to training to hanging out with you guys. Austin's a great place.
Awesome. Well, it's awesome to have you here because last time you were here, which was earlier this year, you were a similar thing, right? It was like I think you say a pre-camp kind of like training week here in Austin. And you did a similar thing, right? You kind of like you were on it.
It's not the first time.
No, so it sounds like then you're gearing up for something special.
Yes, for sure. First title defense is coming.
Wow.
Going to start the new decade off the best way possible with a good old-fashioned cage fight.
So early 2020.
Yes.
You're going to be putting the title on the line, the first title defense, the Bellator MMA World Middleweight Championship belt. I mean, let's talk a little bit about how you got there as well, because your story in MMA the last couple of years, you went from the very kind of like the bottom, the feeder level shows, and you worked your way up, and you were competing in front of thousands of people in London, England, of all places, against Gegard Mousasi to take the title belt. That's a hell of a journey.
It was, and it still is. It's just, when I look back on it, it's really unbelievable. The moments we had in London were just surreal. It's been quite the ride, like you said, starting in, Legacy, which is now LFA, which was based here in Houston with Mick Maynard. From the Hard Rock, hotel and casino in Tulsa, Oklahoma, working our way up to the WinStar, on the border of Oklahoma and Texas, which is a nice venue, but once again, little by little, and getting into Bellator, and then, getting into the bigger shows. I fought in Chicago, really nice venue in Boise, Idaho, and next thing you know, we're in London, and it's hard for me to explain because, we were set to fight in January of this year.
That's right. It took
in LA.
A while for that fight to actually happen, right?
Yeah, we were set to fight in January in LA. And, he got injured and the fight was postponed. And I was kind of just sitting there in limbo for a while. I took a couple grappling matches in March to stay busy, and I had already been, I was like 60% into my camp when I got the news in December that the fight wasn't going to happen, and I'd already done so much. I'm like, and so it was a tough moment. And I had to like decide if I was going to jump on another fight or if I'm just going to wait, and I decided to wait.
So it sounds like you spent the whole year kind of in a perpetual training camp.
I did.
Wow.
I did. Mousasi was basically on my mind from November 2018 until June of this year, you know. Wow. So it ended up being total like an 8-month training camp, you know, the last 2 months of 18 all the way into the first 6 months of this year. Even when I was doing the grappling matches, he was always on my mind, you know. That was my main objective, and so I was training for that. You know, it was a pretty brutal year. You know, it's not recommended. It's not recommended to be in camp that long, but it was like, I hit this point, a moment that I'd worked so hard to get to you know, contend for the belt. And so we just basically kept it going all year. And then finally, what was so crazy is I was actually en route. I did a fight to win in Dallas against Yuri. And then the next week I went, not even a full week, a couple days later, I left to London to compete in Polaris against Jake Shields. And while I was getting ready to board to go to London to face Jake, I got the call, hey, you're rebooked. You're going to fight him in London. And I'm like, I'm on my way to London right now. You know what I mean? And so I go to London, go against Jake, blah, blah, blah. I did some seminars there. I came back, and a couple of days later, I had to fly right back to London for the press conference.
It's kind of a side of things that people don't see, actually, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because, you know, they see the fight and, you know, a couple of times a year. But as you're saying, that the months and months of preparation, the time spent in the gym, and of course, you know, in professional MMA, it's a lot different to grappling. That you have all these obligations and these things that you need to do, part of the press tour and the duties. It's all part of being a professional athlete, but it can't make your job any easier to be an athlete when you have all this stuff to do, huh?
For sure. It's more on your plate, for sure. Sometimes you just kind of have to breathe and just go with the flow, and, you know, it is what it is. And, of course, you know, want to do my part to help the company and promote good fights for Bellator. But it was just crazy how London all of a sudden became this big part of my life, because I went there last year on a special vacation with my girlfriend, and we had a really great time. And then I end up getting this match with Jake, go back for the press conference, then I go back again for the fight. So inside of 1 year, I flew to London 4 times. It was funny. I go to the airport in Oklahoma City, and I always fly United, and the girl up front said, you're on your way to London again, aren't you? And I'm like, yeah.
How'd you guess?
Yeah, you're right.
But it sounds like you got some good memories from that place.
Oh, man. I love London now. It has a special place in my heart. You know, it was so cool to see the double-decker buses with the billboard.
Man, you make me homesick. Come on, what's going on?
Yeah, but the billboard of me, you know, of the event, and Mia Mousasi on the billboard.
It must be
and
so
I was getting
real,
recognized,
right?
you know, in London with people that don't even do jiu-jitsu. You know, normally when I get recognized, it's someone that trains jiu-jitsu, but because they had us, you know, posted up all over the place, I was just getting recognized by regular people, and I made some really nice, cool, amazing new friends there in London, and felt so much love and support from the London, you know, public. However, Mousasi, it was definitely his home turf, being, you know, a European living in Europe, and so, you know, going in as a pretty big underdog, and the whole crowd just Mousasi and everything. It was just like it was quite the rush, and a really special moment for me and my team.
It's got to feel pretty good then to go into that enemy territory, let's say, and, you know, to go in the lion's den and to be not just up against the guy across the cage from you who wants to take your head off, but all the support and everything that it sounds like, and you mentioned it as well, the super fights like against Yuri, against Jake Shields, these are not easy matches, you know. You just overcame challenge after challenge after challenge.
You have no idea. There's always so much more to the story, you know, than what people see or know. The ones closest to me really know, but you know, Yeah, there was a lot of things that we overcame to get to that point, and then of course the fight itself was a very tough fight. Obviously, I mean, he had over 50 fights, and I had only had 9. And then it going the way it did, back and forth, coming down to the 5th round, all these things that just, next thing you know, I'm like, man, I'm in a Rocky movie right now. You know what I mean? But I'm so grateful for that experience and for the way it played out. It was just something that, like coming into MMA, I knew that there would be that moment. At some point, there would be that moment where I would get really tested and be in that, like, kind of dark moment, you know what I'm saying, where it's like, how are you going to react? Are you going to step up or are you going to crumble?
That's what you sign up for, though, right? You're going into something like this, a 5-round championship fight. You got to be prepared to deal with that. That moment could come, right?
100%. And up until that point, I'd never really been in danger in MMA yet. Maybe could have lost a close round here or there in a couple of my past fights, but the only decision I had up until that point was a unanimous decision, and I'd finished nearly everybody one way or another, and so I hadn't had that adversity yet, and it was just it was something in my mind, like I knew that I wanted to experience it at some point. Just that's a big part of the reason why I did MMA, for that challenge,
to test yourself
and to learn and grow. And then, like I said, it was just like a movie, like a book, the way that it happened. It came about in the title fight against someone as experienced and legendary as he is. My first championship rounds I ever did, and he's been doing championship rounds for like a decade. I was just very proud of the way I performed, and just proud to represent my team and my family the way that I did in that moment.
So let me ask, what was that moment then in the fight? What was the moment of adversity that you had to overcome? Was generally in an MMA fight, you kind of go into this a slightly different state, a conscious state, right? It's like you're operating at this sort of like a sort of a high performance level where it's like a weird mix of conscious and subconscious going on, a lot of autopilot. Right, it's like a dreamlike state. But there's a lot of awareness as well in that match, and you're probably talking to yourself during the match. But what was the moment when you really had to say, "Hey, Rafael, get it together, man. This is make or break"?
Oh, for sure, going into the 5th. The first 13 minutes of the fight was basically going perfectly, right according to our plan and our strategy. And then at the end of the 3rd round, I lost his back, got a little sloppy, was a little tired. And that's when he put on some good ground and pound, and I got cut. And then in the 4th round, I'm dealing with the blood in my eye, not being able to see. And he had a surge of energy coming back, like, okay, now it's my turn, and so, and then I got dropped. I didn't get dropped so much because I was like, in danger of getting knocked out. I couldn't see, and I covered up, and he snuck an uppercut in, and I didn't know where I got hit from, and so I kind of fell out of just instinct, because I just wanted to, put my legs up, and if he engages, okay, now I can feel, and more for survival, and it helped me recover a little bit. But, in the corner in between rounds, they, basically said, look, you must win this round. And there, it's my father, it's Shanji Hibero, and my Muay Thai and MMA coach, Mauricio, who I've been training with him for over a decade. Shanji and I go back 15 years. And then, of course, my father. I mean, these are my brothers, and then it's my father. And they're giving me a bunch of love, and they're just like, this is the round of your life right now. We need one more takedown. And so, I get up and I start my positive talk, And one thing I always say to myself in all my training, strength conditioning, everything, when there's rounds, you know, when I enter that last round, I always say last round is my best round. Last round is my best round. Last round is my best round. So I start running that in my head, and it's just like 5 more minutes to, you know, to accomplish a dream. And, you know, we went out, we touched gloves in the middle, and I smiled at him, and I was like, let's go. And I was able to pull it out.
And you manifested that, right? That literally what you just said. Last round is my best round. That 5th round was, I mean, it was phenomenal, right? You went out there and you got that job done.
Things were already pretty much as bad as they could be, you know what I mean? And so that's always the biggest fear. And when you're already, you know, when you're already in there and you're already feeling it, it's like, it's not going to get any worse, you know? I mean, of course, okay, I could get knocked out, but, you know, I'd already got bloodied up, cut, couldn't see, you know, got dropped one time. It's like, you know, just let it all go. Be free, show who you are, and, you know, just 5 more minutes. You know what I mean? It's like, I feel like if you give me a time, you know, like when the my coach, strength and conditioning coach or whatever, says, okay, I want you to go as hard as you can for 30 seconds or 60 seconds or whatever on certain sprints or exercises. Like, I put in my mind, look, I can do anything for that amount of time. Like, it doesn't matter what happened before. Sorry, what happened before that or how tired I am. If it's just one more round, just one more go, I'll get the job done. And, you know, I was a little nervous, like, okay, I'd never been that far into a fight, you know, and wondering, you know, how my cardio and all that other stuff would do. But like I said, just going in the 5th is like just 5 more minutes, you know, for something that will stay with me for the rest of my life.
That's incredible. I'm curious, like, after you won the fight and you sat down with your father, what were some of the first things that you guys talked about?
Oh, we just cried a lot. We all cried a lot.
Must have been a hell of a moment.
Yeah, it was. It was so special, something I'll cherish. I had so many just special people in my life with me, and that's honestly the best part about MMA. You know, I joke about it all the time, like, to get these great people together. I mean, literally, like, the greatest inside of their fields, inside of their arts. And of course, my family, my brothers, my friends that, you know, like, for instance, I have one of my black belts who's been to every ADCC I've ever competed in, you know, went to China, went to Europe, went to Brazil. He's also been to every single fight I've ever fought in. One of my best friends at home, and he's been a student of mine for about 15 years. He's one of my black belts. You know, he's there. You know what I mean? Like, the people that were there just meant so much to me. And it's like, you know, you take Shanji's schedule, you take, you know, Mauricio's schedule, Cameron Shane, who's an incredible yoga mobility teacher, which, you know, Ryan has done a documentary about. All these people have the craziest schedules, you know, and it would only be one of 3 things to get all of them together, right? Someone's getting married, or the bad end of it, someone passed away, or it's a fight, you know? And so having, like, just being surrounded by that love and support and sort of being the one that connects all these people together, the people that I love so much, who maybe wouldn't have met each other or maybe wouldn't have spent so much time with each other if it wasn't for me, bringing them together. You know, when I look around and I, like, the dinner the night before, you know, after you make weight and all that, we had this really amazing special dinner. It was like 4 hours, you know, and it's just because we're talking and socializing and reminiscing on the journeys and what brought us.
That's the kind of energy you really need at that time, right?
Everyone said a beautiful little thing. Like, Salo was like, okay, speech time, you know, and we went around the table and everyone kind of said something about what it meant for them to be there. And, you know, I mean, of course, it was just so emotional. Many people cried. But those things are just the priceless moments. Obviously, the fight itself is you know, special as well. But it's just the time that I spend with those people that really, I mean, if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't have continued. You know what I mean? Because I'm not a violent person.
You're a martial artist, not a fighter, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I don't feel the urge to hurt anybody, or I'm there for the challenge. But what really makes it fun and makes me keep going is being around those people and learning from all of them.
That's great. It's such great energy. And you mentioned about obviously Saulo and Shanji and how important they are in your entire journey, you know, in martial arts and stuff. And you're repping the 6 blades right now and the necklace as well.
Always.
That's awesome.
Always.
I love that there.
It's we got some comments about it, actually, people asking about that, and it's pretty well documented, your relationship with the Rivera brothers.
Yeah, you guys document it.
Exactly. Yeah, we did. Yeah,
shout out the American documentary.
But I mean, it's interesting, isn't it? They're both those guys and warriors themselves, both Saulo and Shanji. They've both been in there as well. They've both competed every format possible, including MMA, and man, you've just managed to surround yourself with incredible people from every field, every area. How has you achieved something like that? Because, you know, not everybody has the good fortune to have access to those kind of resources, right?
I don't know. I mean, I think it's a bit of it is just you know, you put that right energy out there, it comes to you. You know, when I look at the story of how I met everyone on my team, you know, each one is like how, like, what are the odds? You know what I mean? I mean, for those that don't know, the way I got linked up with Saulo and Shanji is I fought Saulo. You know, I fought Saulo in the finals of a big pro no-gi tournament back in 2003. And then he invited me to train with him after that, you know, so I had to stand on the cross of the mat from him first as an opponent, and that created the link. But of course, he could have just saw me and said whatever, you know what I mean? But something inside of him said, I like this kid, and I'm gonna, you know, keep in touch and give him an invitation.
Well, he recognized something.
Yeah, exactly. And then just everybody else, you know, from my Muay Thai coach who I just, you know, happened to reach. Actually, Saulo went to Shootbox years ago.
So that's where that connection comes from.
Yeah, he was trying to look for a great Muay Thai trainer for Shanji, as Shanji was doing MMA, and also there was a stint where Saulo and Shanji were also training Jacare, Damian Maia, as well as Diego Sanchez, and so he wanted to bring a great stand-up coach into the team to help everybody, and he made the connection to Mauricio and Andre Dita. They're brothers. Dita's a very well-known kickboxer, K1 fighter.
Yeah, and it's interesting that Shootbox, it's such a kind of a far-flung kind of like team. There's no obvious connection there between Ribeiro or Lovato with Shootbox. So
Saulo is responsible for that.
Wow.
Yeah, and so then I naturally met Mauricio, and I was training some guys for MMA as well. I hadn't started my MMA journey yet, but I ended up doing a seminar at a school where Mauricio was teaching, and I had heard so many things about him, and they, you know, were like, oh, you got to train with him. You got to train with him. He's incredible. He's like, you know, just, it's like entering the Matrix. You know what I mean? And right off the bat, we just had this incredible bond where we were teacher-student. You know, from the very, very, very first time I trained with him, you know, I did an hour of Muay Thai, and then we did an hour of Jiu-Jitsu. He taught me, and then I taught him, and that's never stopped. He is now one of my black belts.
Oh, great.
Actually, I just promoted him his first degree. So he's been a black belt for 3 years, and I mean, I can go on, but we all have that relationship. So my wrestling coach, who's also a judo Olympic alternate, I used to do a bunch of judo with him when I was really deep in the gi coming up, and I used to compete in judo tournaments. He is also one of my jiu-jitsu students. He's one of my black belts. My strength and conditioning coach is a blue belt. He also trains jiu-jitsu. Cameron Shane is also a student of mine in jiu-jitsu. And so we all are actively learning and teaching each other, and everyone is humble to be a student, you know, and excited to be a student with each other, as well as just share. Everyone is so generous with their knowledge. So everyone is such a great, passionate, well, like as far as their communication skills, they can just pass on their knowledge in incredible ways. And so we are all actively learning and teaching each other. And I'm sort of the focal point, but it's not rare for Shanji to go off and do Muay Thai with Mauricio when we were in camp. It's like, okay, now it's my turn. I want to get some rounds of Mauricio. And then Shanji will teach Mauricio Jiu-Jitsu. And then Brian Piccolo, who's my wrestling coach, and he was there in London as well. I've been training with him for 13 years. He's learning from Shanji, also learning from Mauricio. Luke comes in, he brings everyone into the gym, gives them their workouts and helps them with their bodies. And then Luke learns Muay Thai. And that's, I think, what makes us so special and unique, because I really don't know or have ever seen another team in the MMA world do anything like that. In fact, it's usually very segregated. They have one coach over here, one coach over there, and whoever's their stand-up coach is the stand-up coach. They're not also learning jiu-jitsu and getting involved in the jiu-jitsu aspects or the wrestling aspects or whatever else. And so I fully believe 100% that's why I've had so much success in such a fast manner, and have evolved so quickly, because it's not just me, it's all of us. And I'm getting supercharged with this knowledge and incredible energy, and I'm just so blessed. I mean, like I said, they are, and of course my father is there too, who in my opinion is the greatest martial artist of all of us, who's dedicated his whole life to learning, and he's learning from everybody, and he's given his vibes, and it's just incredible.
Go ahead.
Being there in that camp, surrounded by all those great martial artists, and you guys play off each other all really well, and
we have a lot of fun too.
You guys have so much fun. But the one thing I learned from you is what it means to be a martial artist. Can you tell us, like, what does it mean to be a true martial artist?
Oh man, that would be hard to just put in a couple sentences.
Because there is a distinction, right? We mentioned it earlier, how you don't even consider yourself a violent person, and yet you do very violent things. You stand in a cage and hit and punch and kick somebody. That's pretty violent. But the distinction then between a martial artist and a fighter, maybe you want to talk about that, because you can be a fighter, but you don't necessarily, doesn't make you a martial artist, and vice versa is the truth, right?
Sure. There are a couple things I think that are would be like key points inside of that. First, a true martial artist is going to dedicate their whole life to learning and bettering themselves, no matter what. They don't train just to prepare for an event or to beat up somebody or to win a title or anything like that. When I grew up training martial arts with my father, we had no idea about the competitions or events that would eventually become possible. Even when I first started Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, we didn't even know there was a World Championships. That was just beginning. The sport of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu was really just beginning, and getting its roots. And so a true martial artist does not train to win anything. They train to better themselves and for the love and the passion of the arts. And they are open, that they are a forever student. They are always open to learn from anybody. You don't get stuck in your ways. If you're doing jiu-jitsu, you're also doing judo and wrestling, and taking care of your body, learning yoga, learning different ways to be more mobile and create longevity for your arts. Because at the end of it, I want to train for the rest of my life. The competitions are great, and I want to compete as long as I can too. But at the end of the day, like, I just want to be able to get on the mat and do what I love for as long as I possibly can. So the way you take care of your body, mind, spirit, is a big factor inside of all of that.
The Japanese actually have a pyramid, as kind of a concept And it's Shin, Gi, and Tai, and it's literally, as you said, it's the mind, body, spirit, and the kind of the pyramid is the base is the physical, the body. Is you look after the body, and you culture the physical side of things, and that's the kind of the foundation. And the next step up is, of course, is the technical, and you add your skills and you the techniques that you learn onto that. But then, of course, at the top of that pyramid is the spiritual, and
for sure
something that maybe. Well, not maybe. I think we'd have to say it is absolutely is overlooked by the majority of people.
And in my opinion, it's the most important
because it kind of connects everything together, right? It's like it's
your why. You know, what's in your heart, what's in your spirit. You know,
and if it's lacking, so things, you know, to maybe go a little esoteric, but it's there's no harmony. You know, it's like you can be strong and fast, and you know you might be skilled in certain areas, but if your emotional state is in chaos, if you're not spiritually aligned in the task of what you got planned, then it's just not going to work out right.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And the spirit is so, I mean, it's the foundation of your mind and body. So yes, 100%. And I'm so fortunate that all those people that I mentioned, everyone I'm surrounded with, really view martial arts in that same way. And for me, you know, the other aspect of a true martial artist is someone that's a teacher. I think it's extremely important in order to grow yourself as an individual, as a martial artist, as a practitioner. You must teach, you must give back and share your knowledge and try to help others and inspire others because A, it's going to make you better, and B, what's the point? You know, like it's not about what you achieve, but it's the impact you make on everybody else, you know. And I think that's a major difference between, say, a fighter and a martial artist. Most guys that fight or compete at a you know, world-class level, they are not actively teaching and just showing up and, you know, focusing on helping others, you know.
It's a job.
Yeah, I mean, they don't have their school. They don't have schools. You know what I mean? It's too much on their plate. Maybe they will eventually, but you know, I've been running our school in Oklahoma City now for over 10 years. I've been teaching since I was 15 years old to help my father, you know, and help the school. And I really love to teach. I miss it, you know, when I'm in camp sometimes and I need to rest or I can't teach as much as I would like, you know, I miss it. And it's the balance, you know. And so for me, that's a very important aspect of a true martial artist, is someone who also teaches. And I love, of course, I love to teach at home. I love my guys, my family at home. But then to travel around the world and share with as many people as possible and make those connections, you know, those friendships and relationships that are, you know, amazing. But that's a big piece of it, as well as just challenging yourself. You know, so, I think a true martial artist is not scared to put themselves in the fire.
What I'm kind of sensing then from everything you were just describing there, that a lot of it is about community, right? It's like you've created an amazing community in the support structure that you have around you in just purely your athletic career. You've created a community and you're part of a greater community that your father has also been responsible in creating in, you know, Lovato Jiu-Jitsu, your school in Oklahoma. 100%. And then you're part of the greater global community that you're creating like these new connections everywhere you go. But I guess I'm bringing it back to the sort of the traditional martial arts side of things. I think maybe this is something that in jiu-jitsu that we can forget about, because especially here in the United States and just say the Western world in general, you hear it a lot from practitioners that they will look at their time training in a jiu-jitsu gym and their relationship with the proprietors of that gym. They'll see it as a very transactional by nature. And, you know, the business of running a school, obviously, you'll need certain business techniques. But then people who go into it with a purely customer mentality, that I'm a customer, that what I want has got to be the way I want it, and, you know, I'm always right, and if I don't like it, I'm going to go somewhere else and take my business elsewhere, let my money do the talking. But maybe this is what's lacking a little bit, and, you know, there's a lot to be said about how Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu has maybe stripped away some of the less savory, manipulatory kind of like practices in some of the older martial arts. But there's still a lot to be learned in that fostering this sense of community, the sort of not just
the values,
the values,
the
not just the
principles.
loyalty to one person or one thing, but the loyalty to each other. That bond.
100%.
It's definitely something that's missing a lot, right?
I mean, I can't say if it's missing because I'm fortunate enough to be surrounded by all of those that are on a similar mindset as me. But I know it's out there, and that's part of my why, to keep that alive and to preach that, and that's my passion. It's not like it's not everyone's fault. They might not just know better, right? If you're just showing up and you're the teacher, and it's very much like that, like just a transaction. Okay, here's a couple moves, and you're not really giving yourself, not really driven to make an impact, to make a difference in those people's lives on that day, day by day, year by year, then of course they're going to feel like, okay, I'm just a customer, but if you're there and you're giving your heart and soul and you're there, I mean, you guys know, you become, as a jiu-jitsu teacher, you become a father, an uncle, an older brother, a preacher, a counselor, therapist, exactly. And if you're really helping your students understand their potential and what they're capable of through martial arts and helping them become a better person, live a better life, you're connected. It's a special bond, and I think that's where the loyalty comes in. If you're just blah 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 blah, this is business, maybe they're not going to be loyal. But if you're giving everything, there should be no question. And if they don't see it the way you see it, then shame on them. And it's their loss.
Talking about the values, the 6 blades, maybe people don't realize, but they actually signify some of the core values of the part of the Hibero Jiu-Jitsu. Can you share with some of those what they are?
Family, attitude, respect, honor, loyalty, discipline. Discipline. Those are
Sorry
the 6.
to put you on the spot there, but that's fascinating.
They call it, there's the 6 blades, and then the center is the spirit of the samurai.
Very cool.
They all come together to create the samurai spirit.
But just what you've listed off right there, those core values, that if you can apply even a couple of those into your practice,
and what's number 1? Family. That's the first one I said. Family. Those are the principles that we use inside of our children's programs at my academy. All the kids grow up, come up, learning and applying the 6 blades into their lives, into their training. And for me, like, that's what it's about. You know what I mean? Like, becoming the best version of yourself through martial arts. And that's like, of course, making champions is great. And if any of my guys, or any of my students, if that's their goal, and they're driven by that, I want to help them. Of course, I have a special place in my heart for the competitors because I'm a competitor. But at the end of the day, I just want to see them tap into, what they're really capable of, and see them push past the limits that they thought were there, and live a healthier life, so they're better husbands, or wives, better mothers and fathers, better sons and daughters, better students, and that's what I feel is so abundant in my spirit, and that's how I got connected to the people that I have. It happened, and then you look back at it and you're so like, that's why, it's all about the energy, for me, like the energy that you're putting out there, and then you just feel so grateful for it, and when you're grateful, you're happy and you're inspired, and so you're inspired to give your best, whether you're teaching, you're training, preparing for an event, just talking, whatever. Every day is an opportunity to be inspired and inspire others.
Now, you never strayed too far away from your roots either, because just a couple of days ago, Ryan caught up with you at Gracie Muay Thai and at 10th Planet, and you were training both gi and no gi, right? Ryan, what was it like watching Lovato rolling there on Tuesday?
It was awesome. It's incredible. Teaching and just watching him roll with guys. I feel like in the gi now, it's more of a recovery exercise for you these days more than anything. But
yeah,
it's still like a master class.
Thank you. I love the gi. I love the gi so much, and despite being more focused on MMA as far as my competitive career, it's actually brought me closer to the gi, I feel, in a funny way, because before coming up as a kid, ever since I was 15 years old, every year of my life was about winning the worlds, winning the Pan Ams, winning the worlds, Brasileiro, European, whatever tournament. It was all about competition jiu-jitsu with the gi, and these last few years, or 5 years, I've been fighting MMA over 5 years now. I've still am very active in the gi, always teaching, always training in the gi, with very good guys. I help Paul Pelot and other guys, Victor, Hugo, and these guys get ready.
How much are you training in the gi on an average, like weekly basis?
2 to 3 times a week.
Nice.
Yeah, it's never stopped. Of course, in the month leading up to the fight, once it gets that close, I back off a little bit. But even then, I still teach and I still move in the gi. Maybe not quite as hard, but like Ryan said, it has become very meditative for me. It's a balance to the intensity and the hardcore-ness of MMA, putting the gi on and just having that connection to jiu-jitsu where it's like, I'm moving and there's no thought of, I have to play this game or do that to fight somebody, or compete in the worlds or whatever, or blah, 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 blah. I just got back to training for the pure love of it. And I've been super inspired inside of the gi. And actually, if you talk to people that train with me a lot in the gi, I think they'll say the same, that I've still improved greatly in the gi, and I've taken a lot of the elements of MMA jiu-jitsu that I've developed and brought that over into the gi, and have developed some pretty cool stuff. The gi is my heart, you know what I mean? And that's what I'm most passionate for when it comes to teaching and it comes to giving back. It's definitely 100% the gi.
Kind of pours a little bit of fuel under the fire of that debate then about whether the gi is still relevant. And because a lot of people will say that, especially the no gi crowd, that they believe that the gi is a training tool, as as a discipline it's so far removed now from the specific nature of no gi competition or MMA that it's a waste of time to even train in it. But that's definitely not your attitude.
I think it's all about your mindset, what you're going into it for. When I'm training in the gi, I'm not training in the gi to get ready for an MMA fight. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm training in the gi to plug my mind into, that art of combat and make sure, I'm not losing an area of my brain that can operate on that level where you're the chess game, when you're creating strategies and traps and all these things in the gi where it's like so many moves ahead, and where in MMA it's like just get up, what I mean? Just get up, explode, scramble, you know what I'm saying? And people say, oh, but you should do a lot of no-gi because you're fighting MMA. But no-gi isn't going to help for MMA either. Like pulling guard and just blah, 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 blah. Like, no-gi grappling. I mean, once you can hit somebody, no-gi grappling itself is also very, very different than MMA grappling. You know what I'm saying? So it's not like no-gi grappling itself is going to really measure your success in MMA as well, so like I said, it's all about the mindset, and the fact that I have my mind operating over here and there and here and there. Of course, the wrestling is something that I've grown to love so much these days.
You have to train it a lot.
Yeah, I mean, it's a must.
MMA,
it's a must.
Yeah.
But getting to this level now, I feel like, okay, maybe I'm a good, purple belt or brown belt in wrestling finally, and now it's like, once again, I can see more of the transitions, the technique, the angles with wrestling so much better. I've grown to love wrestling. Those are some of my favorite sessions of the week, especially my coach, Brian Piccolo, he's the man.
He's got some good guys to work with.
You remember Brian, right?
Yeah.
This is a 45-year-old monster.
Yeah.
Monster.
Yeah.
Black belt, one of my black belts in jiu-jitsu. Finalist D1 wrestler, 2-time All-American. He was a Big Ten champion and Olympic alternate in judo.
Wow.
I mean, when it comes to grappling and just taking another man and putting him on his back and doing it in a technical, beautiful, artistic way, this guy is incredible, and I have him right at home, and he's 45 years old, 220 pounds, and he's a beast.
He's a machine.
He's a beast. I mean, he still puts it on me. He's the coach of a local high school, and his two sons are just incredible. One is now wrestling at OU, just started as a freshman. The other one was a Fargo national champion. Went to Bulgaria to represent the U.S. team already. He's only 16.
Wow.
He's going to be a future Olympian, I have no doubt. And it's because of his father, that he's such a good teacher, such a great human being. And so I'm just hungry to learn from him. I love those sessions. But like I said, it's all about the mindset. I think your mindset when you approach your training really dictates, your progress and what it means, what it means to you at that moment. You know what I'm saying? So I love it all.
Sounds like it, man. I can feel the passion. It really can. It's inspiring to sit here and talk. I mean, we've had some great comments coming in about the entire conversation and about how inspirational it's been, from everything from the self-talk to the values of what it means to be a martial artist. I gotta say, Sam, always a pleasure to have you in here. Man, I could sit here and I could literally do this for the rest of the day.
Yeah.
So much to talk about. But
I feel like I need to mention Mauricio one more time because this guy, he's sacrificed so much for me and my journey. I mean, this right here
wouldn't be possible without
Mauricio.
him, right?
Like, if I could say anybody, it's Mauricio.
Wow.
Mauricio Veo, Mauricio Amado. He just got a new academy, and I got to visit in September in Toronto. That's where he's located, Evolu Santai. If you're in Toronto, check him out. Like I said, he's one of my black belts. Amazing Muay Thai martial artist.
And the nicest guy you'll ever meet.
The nicest. He is so passionate, passionate. But he just had a new academy, and he had a nice poster inside of this picture that Bellator took of me getting the belt put on, and he's over on the side, like right there, like screaming, and it meant so much to me to not win this, like, to be a world champion, not to be able to say I'm a world champion, but for him to be able to say he is a world champion coach, and to take that belt to Toronto for him and have it at his new school and for his students meant the most to me. And Mauricio, thank you so much. You are the best.
Super special. It really is, man. I really wish that we had much more time to sit here and talk, because I think we could go on for hours talking about this kind of stuff. But unfortunately, all good things have to come to an end. But Rafael, thank you so much for coming in today. It's always a pleasure. So early 2020 for the first title defense for the MMA, for the Bellator Middleweight Championship. So we'll see you back in action relatively soon.
Not in a perfect world for me, I will fight 3 times next year, early, summer, and then end of the year. I'd love to do the Japan event that they did. They did it this year, and it didn't work out for me to get on that one. I'd love to do that next year. And in between those 3 fights, I'm looking to do some big jiu-jitsu matches, some grappling matches.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad about that, because we'd hate to lose you completely. Because
I'm still here. I just had a grappling match a month ago.
Yeah, you've been for Boogie, right?
Yeah.
Boogie man. But I mean, it's great that you've been keeping active in the scene, and you've been
trying to
still
stay young, man.
involved.
Try to stay young. Doing my best.
Keep going up against these guys. Stay sharp, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Well, man, thanks so much for coming
Thank
in
you.
today. It's absolute
Appreciate
pleasure.
it. Great to see you guys.
And we'll see you again for another episode of Fistful of Collars very soon.